seconds. We're going to get right into it. Feet hip width apart, hands slightly outside the shoulders, weight in the heels, tighten the midline, straight bar path, active shoulders. Keep the bar in the front of plane. Cody,
cut it.
Great episode.
This has been great, everybody. Points of performance. Faults, we should list those. Inactive shoulders, forward
Pushing around the
inclination,
face.
muted hip. Yeah, all those things.
All right, cool. If you make it onto seminar staff, the first lecture you give is the press lecture. For most of us, we've done this the most amount of times because, it was the first lecture we got. We continue to get it over the years. So let's dive into it.
So I think we just need to talk about what the power zone is. What does that mean?
Jay wasn't even aware that was a term.
I call it the intensity zone. You explain it, Fern.
I can't thank you enough for presenting me with the opportunity. When we're talking about the power zone, essentially what we're referring to is the core or the midline where you brace to essentially do anything athletic.
Let's start with the press. To me, it's one of the most under-taught movements in CrossFit.
People don't teach it because it's simple. Not to be confused with there's a lot happening there. Also not to be confused with, by and large, in most people be drastically improved if you just worked on it a little bit.
Open thumb grip or wrap around?
It's not necessarily unsafe, but you would definitely want a full grip on the bar. I will also say for the record that I do a lot of overhead pressing with my thumb underneath the bar. There's a time and a place for it. I definitely don't think you should ever do a bench press like that.
It's referred to as the suicide grip for a reason. When you win the games 10 times, come back and do whatever the fuck you want with your grip. But until then, let's wrap your damn thumbs around the bar 10 times.
In many instances, you will see people do that who are doing it to compensate for lack of optimal position in the front rack position.
Why is the front rack for the presses different than the front rack for a front squat?
If I've got my elbows high in this position, when I go to press, I'm not just going to do a tricep extension to press the bar overhead. I'm going to have to drop the elbows to press in that direction anyway. I want my forearms in the direction of travel.
The thruster. I am squatting. I do need my elbows high. How do I go from that high elbow position, transition into a press?
At the level 1, we teach a hybrid grip in the thruster. Your elbows need to be up high enough that they're not going to smash into your thighs at the bottom, but that you, like you are suggesting, Cody, can then transition overhead.
For new coaches, what else should I be looking for?
I feel like you're setting me up on this one. I would be looking at quads, butts, guts. This is what I'm looking at, that you're nice and solid.
How you would fix excessive layback?
I'll say, hey, don't do that.
This is what being a level 4 is about, everybody. Is
you see what you just did there?
This is
That's
great.
Not good.
What is the body part that is out of place? And give it a direction.
Demonstration is one of the 6 criteria.
Sarah Wilkins, she's like, most people don't move well enough to move poorly well.
Those in the Affiliate U curriculum, you will demonstrate good movement, but you will also demonstrate bad movement because it's a third of the cues out there.
It doesn't take long for us to present a very real scenario in which you can create a problem for somebody, whether it's a high volume of cues or they like one cue versus the other. How do I do this? Start with their name and then tell them what is out of place and where to put it. Ooh, this is a good one because there's actually some unknown issues with this question.
Let's hear it.
Most often we will see coach call a rep, and then when the rep is done, they will give the correction. What I would recommend there is they should be correcting in the position that is wrong. The bottom of the squat, if I was giving a cross circle cue, I would be like knees out while they're at the bottom of the squat to have them correct. I will see that fix. Now I don't need the additional rep. I'm like, do that next time.
Can you come up onto your toes during a push press, or is that a sign of a fault occurring?
I was going to let you answer. Otherwise it's like, we're not really entirely sure what value you bring to the show.
Can you come onto your toes? Absolutely. It has to be a byproduct of hip extension. When it goes wrong, it's you are on your toes too prematurely. As you move from the press to the push press to the push jerk, you should be able to add 30% in load. So is that realistic? If so, why don't we practice squat jerks regularly to reach that potential?
The limiting factor there will be overhead position. For the squat jerk specifically, you would need to either have the front rack capacity to start with your hands wide. Most people don't have that ability. And then most people don't have the ability to overhead squat from a press grip.
What do you both think is the most commonly missed fault in teaching any of these 3 movements? Probably either forward inclination or muted hip, some deviation of the torso angle and the push press.
I would go with a static fault. Timing, or some sort of torso deviation. There's multiple uses of the term progression. So the progression is a way to teach a movement, meaning like dip and hold, dip, drive slow, dip, drive fast, dip, drive press, versus these movements will progress in difficulty.
What does an active shoulder look like in regards to pressing?
In the overhead position, it looks like pressing against the load. Anytime we're talking about active shoulders, we're talking about resisting the load.
So push press, we talked about the progression, execution of the movement, dip, then drive, then press. We've got the timing of it built in. Faults we're looking for, points of performance, I should say. We want to see a vertical torso. That often goes wrong with forward inclination or muted hip. And then we want to see timing of the movement and speed of the movement.
Imagine that we replaced that PVC pipe that she's holding with something in the distant background behind the athlete. The cheat code for this to see if they're moving in or out of the frontal plane, you would just move yourself to line them up against whatever that straight line is behind them. And by using that, it creates a binary thing for you, meaning like it's either on that straight line or it's not.
Especially when you're coaching athletes that have done the push jerk before, oftentimes they short the hip extension. When you're coaching the jerk, what I want you to think about is jumping high, jumping hard. And tying it back to the level one, it's a balance of safety, efficacy, and efficiency. And if you're so concerned with the hip extension because you think that's the most safe position, well, the efficacy and the efficiency are going to sacrifice. It's not one or the other. It's a balance across all three.